Jyoti Basu, Buddha Bhattacharya, they never had to, wake up in the morning, go to Kali Mandir, offer prayer, then go to the Red Road in the afternoon, offer namaz, then go to the Ganges in the evening, जाके वहाँ पे छठ पूजा के लिए केला डाल दिया नदी में. So this never used to happen in our state. When the Babri demolition happened, can you tell me one state in our country where not even one life was lost? That the only single state in our country where not even a single life was lost in riot after Babri demolition was West Bengal. Nandigram was, if you say it was a conspiracy which we could not handle. We lost to the conspiracy. There were sabotages which we could not identify earlier. From inside the government, from the bureaucracy, from the police, all that we have said it in our documents also. We failed over there. You may point out 100 mistakes in our way to acquire land. You may point out 100 mistakes in our mode of settlement or paying back to the farmers or whatever. But there was not a mistake in us wanting to build an industry in West Bengal, and that is something that the people of the state, they are paying for the last 14 years. It is very easy to portray our leaders as the old guards or whatever, because our leaders don't take a camouflage. They don't go around wearing a camouflage. If you see the leaders of TMC, do you think they are younger than our leaders, our party leaders? I am exceptionally fond of Abbas. In spite of saying that, and I said this very honestly, that of course there are certain things that I don't subscribe to, certain things that he had said earlier, which I know for sure that even he doesn't subscribe to. See, you cannot fight communalism. To fight communalism, you need to stand on a firm ground. You cannot fight communalism by standing, over the mud of corruption. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, but one thing is there: even Amit Shah's forefathers can't blackmail me in the name of CPI. I don't have a penny of corruption. I have never indulged in a penny of corruption in my life. Or I'm not talking about me only per se, but for all our leaders.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Epicentre, our video series on the Bengal election. Since Bengal right now is the epicenter for all the political action in the country. Today's video or today's interview has been the most requested one on our channel. People have been telling us in our last 4-5 videos that we have to interview Shatarup Ghosh, and that is exactly what we are doing today. Shatarup Ghosh is a young leader of the CPM. He's extremely popular in Kolkata. He is the third time MLA candidate from the Kasba constituency, which is in Kolkata city itself. He has been associated with student politics and student political organizations like the SFI and the DYFI as well, and he is speaking to us today. He's very cordially invited us to his home, so thank you so much for talking to us today. I want to start with the emergence of a lot of young CPM leaders who have come into the forefront this time around. Generally CPM has been known for its the Bengali Bhadralok veteran leaders, not necessarily young leaders like yourself. This time we are seeing Abbas Ghosh, we are seeing Meenakshi Mukherjee who's taking on Mamta Banerjee, we have Srijan Bhattacharya, we have so many people this time who are coming into the forefront. Do you think this was a strategy of the CPM to bring these young people to the forefront this time around?
See, I think what is more important is that the names that you mentioned, or if you look at our candidature list, none of these young leaders have become leaders by virtue of being someone's nephew or niece or son or whatever. Like the way Jaisha became BCCI president is not how Meenakshi became our leader in Nandigram. All these leaders, be it Oishi, be it Dipshita, Srijan, Meenakshi, everyone, all of us, they had joined, people's movement, they had, led people's movement, they had emerged as leaders from the movement, and now the party, the organization, has given them the responsibility to take this voice further, to carry the voice of the people's movement into the assembly. So that I think is the something that is most important. And it's not only about certain young leaders who are fighting the elections, but if you look at our campaign, if you look at our rallies, our rallies, our campaigns, our gatherings are flooded with young faces, and these are the young people of Bengal who really want to see a change in the narrative of politics. The dominant narrative in our country for the last few years have been beef, pork, Jinnah, Pakistan, Hindu, Muslim, and all these rubbish. But these are the people, these are the voices of our country, which have often not found mention in the mainstream media, in the corporate media. But these are the people who are looking for the politics in the real sense of the term. They want to see elections being fought on people's issue. They want to see elections being fought not on the lines of religion or anything. So this, I think, is most important.
Yeah. What I meant was that, do you think that there has been some sort of a churn or some sort of a change in the CPM this time around? Because till now you could associate CPM with the Jyoti Basus or with the Buddhadev Bhattacharyas or with the Biman Boses, but this time we are seeing a very different kind of sense of leaders that we are seeing this time around from the CPM.
So here also, when Jyoti Babu became the opposition leader in West Bengal, he was in his very early 40s. When Buddhadev Bhattacharya became a minister, he was in his 30s. When Biman Basu started leading the party in our state and also collectively in our country, then he was in his 30s. So even the leaders that you mentioned did not become leaders after their hair turned grey or white. They have also been leaders from their very very youth. This is something that has always been happening in our party. And see, I don't want to be politically incorrect, but it is very easy to portray our leaders as the old guards or whatever, because our leaders don't take a camouflage. They don't go around wearing a camouflage. If you see the leaders of TMC, do you think they are younger than our leaders, our party leaders? They color their hair and they try to look young. But our party, our movement consists of veterans. It consists of middle-aged people from the Middle Ages, and also it has young leaders. Like the ones that you mentioned and everything. And this has been there since long. This has always been there. What is important now is that see, for the last 5, 7, 10 years, we have. It's a very welcome thing in our country that it has been seen that the young voices, they have actually been raising the real issues of our country. If you look at the nation's politics, if there's one young voice that has emerged big time in the last 5, 7 years, is that of Kanhaiya Kumar. He's a young left leader who emerged from the JNU, be it Oishi, be it Dipshita, everyone, be it Jignesh Mewani. Jignesh Mewani is perhaps not a Marxist, he's not a leftist, but he's someone very close to our line of politics, or be it all these people. So therefore, the voice of the youth that have churned the country for the last few years, the voice of the youth that have represented the voice of the people of our country for the last few years, we want this representation to enter the house where the laws are formed. We want this representation to enter the assembly, to enter the parliament, and the left is doing its part in ensuring this.
How has the left or the CPM changed in the last 10 years? How is it different this time around than it was, say, 10 years ago?
I think if there's one thing, one significant change that if you tell me I think the left has, it has become way more broader. It has become more broad. Apart from the left voices, we have not that we haven't acknowledged it earlier. We have always been acknowledging this, that there are voices outside the CPIM, outside the left, which are progressive voices. Be it voices from the Dalit movement, be it voices from the gender organizations, be it voices from the LGBTQ movement, be it voices from the individuals who perhaps are not organized Marxists, but they are they are the ones who are our comrades in the fight to build a better world. And therefore, see, our alliance with the ISF...
They are associated in the narrative.
Absolutely. So, see, our alliance with the ISF, our alliance with various other Dalit organization, tribal organization, all this, I think, is the onset to a new kind of politics in our country in a few years.
You just talked about the alliance with the ISF. Now, that alliance has come into question time and again since you have formed this alliance. Do you think that this alliance with the ISF, although they are portraying themselves as a secular party, but you can't change the fact that it is being led by a religious clergy or, a religious cleric? And the things that he has said in the past, he might try to change that sort of a perception of himself, but he still can be called a radical, sort of a person, in the sense that he is indulging in communal politics, he is indulging in minority politics. Do you think that that goes against the principle of what the left stands for?
See, in our understanding, religion, being religious and being communal are not the same thing. It's not only about Abbas Siddique, but it's about everyone, every single leader. It might as well be a Hindu leader. So we don't have a problem with a person, an individual being religious. I mean, in our country, almost 90% of the polity are religious. So we don't want people, or we don't tell people to, stop practicing religion. Our only thing is that you can't mix religion with politics. You can't take politics, or you can't, do your politics by virtue of any churning people's religious sentiment, by triggering people's religious sentiment. That is our entire understanding. Here we have a leader, Abbas Siddique. Of course, I agree with you when you say that earlier he had made certain comments which does not go with the ethos of, forget the left, it does not go with the ethos of this country.
Yeah.
And it's not only about me.
No, in fact, I met him, and I do feel that he has, he is trying to project himself very differently from what he was, or at least how he was projected a few years ago. He has sort of changed that about himself. He is talking about, about secularism. He is talking about, and of course, in his party also, he has fielded Adivasis and Dalits and Muslims. So I get that, but you can't really take away from the kind of projection of him, because at the end of the day he is asking for minority votes.
See, that is the only point that I disagree with you on. The last thing that you said earlier, whatever he said, I mean, it's not only about me agreeing with you, but I'm sure you know this. Abbas Siddique has gone on public saying that I apologize and I completely disown what I had said earlier. Certain things, not everything, of course, but certain things that I had said earlier. That was my incorrect understanding of politics. That was my incorrect understanding of gender. I completely disassociate myself with certain statements that I made earlier, and I apologize for that. But today, when he has formed a party, he has sworn his oath on the constitution. He has sworn his faith on the constitution, and he has categorically announced that my part. And see, I mean, we saw that also in brigade when he came. He joined our rally. He spoke there for 20-25 odd minutes. In this entire speech, he was saying that he's a religious leader. Of course, he emerged as a religious leader. I won't say he's a religious leader right now. As the leader of the ISF, I don't see him as a religious leader. He's a leader who is religious. That is one thing. And being a religious leader, being the leader of one particular sect, is something else. I don't see him as a religious leader. But yeah, of course, he has a religious identity. He strongly carries his religious identity, and he is not ashamed of carrying his. And why should he be ashamed? I mean, it's his constitutional right. But we have seen, brother, in our country, we have seen so-called quote-unquote secular leaders climbing on the dais. If they speak for 15 minutes, 10 times in their speech they say Inshallah, 10 times they say Jai Shri Ram. Mamata Banerjee is not a religious leader. She has not emerged as a religious leader. She's not a cleric or whatever. If she gives the speech for 10 minutes, at least 12 times she says Inshallah, Allahu Akbar, Khuda Hafiz, and 10-12 times she utters absolutely rubbish Saraswati mantra and Durga, all that. So I mean, ultimately these are the people who we have seen that they come in the name of they come as leaders of secular parties, and they ask for people's vote in the name of religion. We see Narendra Modi, rather we see elected representatives in the parliament shouting Allahu Akbar, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Ma Kali. We have seen that. But here's a leader who is as you said, he started his life as a cleric, but when he is addressing a gathering, not once in his 20-minute speech did he utter the word Inshallah or Allahu Akbar or vote in the name of Allah. I'm asking my Muslim brothers to vote for this certain party and whatever. Not once did he utter that word.
Why do you think the Congress is completely disassociating themselves with this alliance with the ISF?
No, they haven't actually. To be fair, I mean, I don't know what the Congress leaders of the centre they are doing, but in the state, if you see, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, who's the president of the Congress, actually he actually had a face-off with one of his colleagues, Anand Sharma, on these very alliance. He actually
actually, you know what he said? He said that this alliance was built by the left, and we are in alliance with the left.
No,
we haven't made this alliance with ISF.
No,
the left
actually-
has made it. It's too late for us to do anything about it.
No, not see. Actually, I mean, if you see the tweets, actually, he led that this when Anand Sharma said that this is a perhaps a communal platform. Then Adit Chaudhary to that particular tweet replied that this alliance in West Bengal is being forced by it's being forced under the leadership of the left. So you can't accuse this alliance of being communal. So that way, I think actually he showed his faith in on the left, that the left cannot do anything that would be communal. Or the left cannot lead an alliance. If the left is leading an alliance, you don't need to be you don't need to worry about the secularism of that alliance. And that's what he said. Our seat sharing was done, it got amicably settled a few days earlier than the sharing between the Congress and the ISF. But that I think
CPM had to, or the left had to give more seats away, right?
that is understandable. We
Because
were
Congress did not.
last time we fought most number of seats. So if you if you are having to forge an alliance, obviously the bigger and whoever would have a bigger share of seats in his or her hand would be the one who has to give more, who has to offer more seats. I mean, that is understandable.
Yeah. So I've heard from my sources that Abbas Siddique has taken a huge liking to you, in the sense that you have a close relationship with him, and he's even said that he might come to Kasba and he'll come and campaign for you and against Javed Khan, who is your opponent in Kasba, and you have lost to him twice before. So do you think that will help?
Yeah, even if
Also talk to us about your relationship with Abbas Siddique.
No, see, even if you come for my campaign, that will also help. And we want young people to speak for us, to voice, raise their voice for us. And of course, Abbas is a very popular leader in not only in Kasba but across the country, across our state. That is, so a few days back, I think 2-3 days back, we did a joint rally in Bhangur, and man, I wish you were there. It was like kind of a rock concert when he. When he climbed the dais, when he started to speak, it's almost like casting a spell over the people, and he's an extremely popular leader.
Yeah,
So
I saw that at the brigade rally.
Yeah, so you know that. So he's an extremely popular speaker. He's extremely popular among the youth. So of course that will help. And see, as I was telling you earlier, in Kasba also, in one particular area, let me be very frank. There's this one particular area called Topshia. It's an entirely, in a sense, I mean. Almost 100% of the population over there, 99 to 100% of the population there are Muslims, and we have seen Priyata in the constituency. See, in the last election in 2016, the records will tell you that I have lost. The records will tell you that Javed Khan has won. But if you dig a bit deeper into it, you'll see there are 6 wards, municipal wards in that one constituency. Out of those 6 municipal wards, I won in 5. In 5 constituencies, people voted in favor of us. There are wards where, 1 year prior to that, there was a corporation election where we had lost. 12 months down the line, where we were trailing by 7,000 votes, there we, got ahead by 2,000 votes. In spite of that, by capturing that one particular area, by not letting people vote, by threatening people, blackmailing people, you go to vote. My polling agent is going to stand next to the EVM and will note down who is voting for whom. In case you don't vote for us, your water line will be cut, your electricity will be cut. And also in the name of religion, people were blackmailed. A section of the people, they were triggered in the name of religion. By all these wrong means, in some 40-45 odd booths, the voting was done in a way which actually toppled the verdict of the rest of the assembly. I mean, so we want that fear to break, we want that insecurity to break. And yes, Abbas and I are going to stand over there, and we will say that it's not only about the election. We lost last time. In spite of that, for the last 5 years, we have been with you. Today we are with you. On the day of the election, we are going to be with you, and even after the election, we win or we lose, we are going to be with you. See, I am exceptionally fond of Abbas. In spite of saying that, and I said this very honestly, that of course there are certain things that I don't subscribe to, certain things that he had said earlier, which I know for sure that even he doesn't subscribe to further. Any further. But yes, I am exceptionally fond of him, because see, we have seen in the state, the narrative in our state actually, it was pushed back, in the sense that, see, for the last 40, 45 years, 50 years, each and every single state of our country it saw riots. But Bengal did not see a single communal riot for the last 34 years when left was there in power, when we were running the government. When the Babri demolition happened, can you tell me one state in our country where not even one life was lost? That the only single state in our country where not even a single life was lost in riot after Babri demolition was West Bengal. And we have always been, I was born in West Bengal, I grew up in West Bengal. We have always been so proud of this reality of our state. It's not only about being CPIM, or it's not only about being left. When I was a child, I was not CPIM. When I was studying in school, I was not left. But I, as a citizen of West Bengal, as a a young person of West Bengal, I was so proud of the fact that I get to hear about riots, on television. I get to read about riots in newspapers. But
you didn't witness.
I never had to witness. I never do witness a riot. That one heritage we had lost in our state in the last 10 years. The narrative has taken a back seat. We see, I mean, Jyoti Basu, Buddhadev Bhattacharya, they never had to, wake up in the morning, go to Kali Mandir, offer prayer, then go to the Red Road in the afternoon, offer namaz, then go to the Ganges in the evening, जाके वहाँ पे छठ पूजा के लिए केला डाल दिया नदी में. So this never used to happen in our state, and this kind of politics was never practiced in our state.
Who do you think is responsible for this? Do you think
singularly she is responsible?
But do you not think that since the BJP came into or started gaining a stronghold, do you think that is when it has become?
It's the other way around. Once she started doing this, the BJP started gaining grounds in West Bengal. Even when we lost to Trinamool Congress in 2011, who was there? On one side there was the left, on the other side there was Mamata Banerjee, and yes, we lost. She won. The BJP was not in the picture, but it gave the BJP a chance to play their narrative in West Bengal. Something that was, I mean, the dominant narrative of West Bengal never allowed the BJP to do their politics, to pursue their politics. Mamata Banerjee went to Furfura Sharif, where Abbas is from, or where, Abbas Siddique or all these leaders are from. She goes to Furfura Sharif. When she was the rail minister, she inaugurates the rail line, and she says that for my Muslim brothers and sisters, I am, building this rail line. Now, what does it mean? In a country, I mean, you can't have a rail line where only the Muslims are going to travel or only the Hindus are going to travel. But what does it mean? Next day, the BJP takes the newspapers to the houses and says, see, here you are 75%, 80% population who are giving taxes, you are paying taxes, and a rail line is being built only for the Muslims.
Shatarup, we also have to talk about what happened to the left 10 years ago. Not only did they lose their 34-year-long power in Bengal, but they also lost in many other ways. They lost their cadre, they lost their lot of their support, they lost their leaders, they lost their strongholds. What were the biggest mistakes of the left government and this downfall? Of course, there was Mamata Banerjee and there was the whole anti-land acquisition movement that worked completely against the left government. What were the mistakes right now, if you look back? What were the mistakes of the left?
One thing, what we were discussing earlier in the interview, this effort to forge a broader platform, keeping the Dalit movement, or rather trying to take the Dalit movement, the gender movement, the LGBTQ movement, and all these other the individuals who are outside the ambit of organized political parties, taking them all together is something that I if you ask me personally, I would say that I believe this should have been done way earlier. Perhaps we were in the government, or we were getting such humongous support from the people. We were late to realize that there are voices, there are progressive voices.
There was a sense of complacency, you think?
So I won't say complacency, but I perhaps we felt that whatever we are saying or doing would suffice. But see, the reality of our country is that if we talk about marginalization in our country, marginalization doesn't always happen on on economic lines. It happens on the lines of caste. It happens on the lines of gender. Obviously, it happens on various other lines. We thought that for a very long time, a lot of us believed that, and of course there was some logic in that belief as well. I won't completely look down upon that belief. That obviously, when we talk of an egalitarian society, when we talk of an inclusive society, when we talk of a progressive society, in such a society, all these conflicts are going to get resolved. But in the course of building the society also, you need to take these voices into the fight, and you need to take these individuals also as your you need to see them as your comrades. This, if you ask me honestly, I would say that we were perhaps a bit late to realize this, or whatever, try to do this. Perhaps this is one thing. Secondly, see, in our state, if you
do you think the Nandigram Singur movement could have been handled differently? Because if you're trying to acquire land from the farmers, your representation should be from the farmers and not enforcers, not people who are forcing the land out of the people. It could have been handled in a much different way. There was violence. That is the grounds for the whole movement coming into place. A whole movement against the left government. And do you think that there was 4-5 years of this happening? So there was time for the left to rectify this issue, but that didn't happen.
See, first of all, in Nandigram, nobody ever wanted to take an iota of land. So Nandigram and Singur are different. Nandigram was, if you say it was a conspiracy which we could not handle. We lost to that conspiracy. There were sabotages which we could not identify earlier. From inside the government, from the bureaucracy, from the police, all that we have said it in our documents also. We failed over there. But it was a conspiracy. People were triggered.
Due to violence?
Not due to violence. See, it did not start from 14th March. Today, if we discuss Nandigram, it would be unfair to start our discussion from 14th March when police entered and there was firing. It started much earlier. Suddenly, an area was cut off. Geographically, it was cut off from the rest of the state, from the rest of the country, and a parallel government was announced. At that time, there were board exams going on in West Bengal. The children of Nandigram studying in class 10 and class 12 who were supposed to sit for their board exams, they could not even collect. I'm giving you one example. They could not collect their admit card. They could not sit for the exams over there. Newspapers were not allowed to enter. They said that we are going to, build a police and a paramilitary force of our own. That force is going to, the Maoists used to call it Muktanchal, liberated area. So we are going to form our own liberated area. This Nandigram will be cut off from the rest of the state and from the administration. So
who said that?
The Maoists, categorically, they make announcements. They made announcements at that time, and so some urban intellectuals, they actually stood by that announcement. Unfortunately, police officers tried to enter. They were killed over there. They were brutally murdered. So how long can this go on in a democratic country? So police had to enter. Now, if you say when the police entered, that there will be a organized backlash, that there will be, women will be, put in front, and there will be a counter, kind of an ambushment. Why did you not know it earlier? Why did your intelligence fail? I would say yes, we had failed. That was unfortunate. Coming to Singur, see, we have said this at that time, we are saying this today. You may point out 100 mistakes in our way to acquire land. You may point out 100 mistakes in our mode of settlement or paying back to the farmers or whatever. But there was not a mistake in us wanting to build an industry in West Bengal, and that is something that the people of the state, they are paying for the last 14 years. Look at this last 14 years. Today, Mamata Banerjee is going to Singur, and she is, earlier she had, you had seen, she was trying to, throw some mustard seeds, and she said that there'll be mustard cultivation. That did not happen. Now she's saying that we're going to build an agricultural industry, agro industry in Singur. So you tell me, Priyata, an industry which was supposed to be inaugurated back in 2007, today it's 2021, and you are saying that there will be an industry built. So for the last 14 years, these last 14 years, who's going to get these years back? A boy or a girl of Singur whose age was at that time 21 or 22, now he or she is 36. So prime time of his or her youth is gone. Look at this 14 years. Look at Mamata Banerjee, herself, her nephew, her party leaders, how this 14 years went for them and how this 14 years went for the people of Singur, for the people of... So today this entire state has become an old age.
Why is land acquisition in Bengal so difficult?
That I think is an excellent question. See, because there we needed some 1,000 acres land. If you see northern India, in Haryana, in western UP, in Punjab, to get 1,000 acres land, you need the signature of 2 or 3 landowners. Here, for getting 1,000 acres land, in Singur we needed signature of 1,400 farmers. That is because the left had distributed land among farmers. We did this after 77. We started in 67. Our government did not continue. When in 77 we came to power, the land distribution that we did, that actually, empowered the peasantry. It gave land. We extended land to the poor peasants. It was snatched away from the zamindars. It was snatched away from the big holders, and it was distributed among, peasants. So the holding of land is not concentrated in West Bengal. In Punjab, in Haryana, in Gujarat, to build a industry in 1,000 acres land, you don't even need to bother to talk to even one single farmer. Then they're the landowner who is sitting on a few crores. He or she will sell you his or her land. You need to pay that one person. So that is not the scenario in West Bengal. 1,000 years down the line, 100 years down the line, when people are going to talk about the 34 years of the left government, history is not going to read how the government fell. History will also remember, and history will also, discuss, debate, and, learn from the fact that how a government in this, in this country, in a federal state, where the government of the center is not yours, in a state, in one single state, how could you run a government for 34 years where you change the narrative of politics, where you change the quality of life of the people, where you change the entire understanding of, a peasant's, bonding with his or her land and everything. So these are our success. I mean, the government fell. The story doesn't start and end over there. Not only about Nandigram or Singur, there aren't jobs anywhere in Bengal. Today you see, and see, you know this about Mamata Banerjee. I should not perhaps use this word for a chief minister, but I can't help using this as well. I mean, we have seen her megalomania in the last 10 years in our state. Where do we see her pictures? When it's Rabindranath Tagore's birthday, we see her picture with Rabindranath Tagore. When we see government hoardings on Kaji Nazrul Islam's birthday, we see her picture with Nazrul Islam. Here you have Nazrul Islam. Next to it, there's Mamata Banerjee. On Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's birthday, we see her picture with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. When the government is, putting up hoardings to make people aware of dengue and malaria, we even see her picture with mosquitoes. But have we ever seen one single picture of Mamata Banerjee with a new factory, with a new industry in our state for the last 10 years?
But that's not, to be very fair, it's not just, left was there in power for 34 years. You have to admit that industrialization was just not there in Bengal. It just wasn't there for even those 34 years.
The biggest IT hub of our country was built in West Bengal during the left front government. The Haldia petrochemical was, what was Haldia? Haldia was a backward village of fishermen. Today you see one of the biggest industrialist city in our country standing over there. When we talk of small scale enterprises, medium scale enterprises, we have been leading the chart for consecutive years in our country. What we are criticized for when people talk of trade union movement and all? See, Priyada, we don't take those criticisms seriously, because I tell this to you categorically, we are proud of the trade union movement that was there during the left front government. And tomorrow if we form the government, again there will be trade union movement. Because we believe that if there's an industry running in a state or in a country, ultimately at the end of the day, it has to run for the workers. Tomorrow if there's a left government in the office, and the left government will try all its means and resources to create a pro-industry atmosphere in the state, to create infrastructure, to help investors build up, set up factories. But at the same time, the investor, the industrialist, has to keep in mind that you cannot exploit the worker. You need to, give what the workers deserve. And in case
that's fair. But that is also another reason why people don't want to invest in Bengal, because privatization is so difficult here.
So now if the condition for investment is that I need to be given chance to exploit the workers, then we might as well not invest. But see, I am saying this to you categorically, and I am not saying this after winning elections. I am saying this before the elections. I am sure you are going to hear your interview before the election comes. We want the people to vote for us, keeping this in mind, that tomorrow if there is a left government in our state or anywhere in this country, if there is a conflict between an owner and an employer, the government will try all its means to resolve that conflict amicably. In case the conflict cannot be resolved, the communist government will always stand with the worker.
How will you react to this statement? For the left, it is more of a priority to defeat TMC and Mamata Banerjee than it is to defeat the BJP. How will you react to this?
The only priority for the left is to build their own government. In the course, whoever gets defeated.
So
what is the difference between Mamata? See, but who is BJP in West Bengal? See, in this election, you'll see three, sides contesting the election. One is the left Congress ISF alliance. That is one side. One is the Trinamool Congress. That is the second, side or whatever. And the third side is the Alumni Association of the Trinamool Congress, whom we call the BJP in West Bengal. Like schools and colleges have the Alumni Association. The Alumni Association of TMC leaders is known as BJP in Bengal. If you look at their, the candidature list of the BJP, 2 out of every 3 candidates are ex-TMC leaders. So who are you saying? Who is BJP in West Bengal? I'm curious.
if there's a scenario of a hung assembly, which I don't think is going to be the case, but if there is, will you support the TMC?
You ask this to Mamata Banerjee. If there's a hung assembly, who will she support? Why do I need to answer? At that time, what would be her priority? To see the BJP come to power, or to make sure that the left Congress ISF alliance keeps the BJP away from power? That she has to answer. She has to see. The left doesn't have. But we don't need to.
From the perspective of the left.
We don't. I told you, we want to form our own government. That is our only. In Mahabharata, you read that Arjun used to see only the eye of the.
I'm asking, will you be okay with forming a government with TMC if there is a scenario like that?
See, we will form the government, and we want the people to give us the numbers to form the government. See, Priyata, the point is that, what is the biggest threat? There are people in West Bengal, I am sure, some people who they don't like the TMC. They are fed up with all the wrong things that they have done in our state for the last 10 years, but they have a bitter, or they have a bigger distrust for the BJP, which is completely understandable. I respect their position. So they think that the TMC is lesser evil. But see, if you look at it, in our country, in the states that BJP is running the government, is the BJP running the governments in these states by virtue of winning the elections in all these states? There are so many states where the BJP had lost in the elections. They have formed the government after the elections by buying people, by purchasing MLAs, be it in Madhya Pradesh, be it in Karnataka, be it earlier in Bihar, after the last election in Bihar, be it in Manipur, in so many states. How does they do it? They do it because after the elections, once MLAs get elected from other parties, Amit Shah goes to the state with stacks of money in one hand and CBI's letter in the other hand, and then he puts both of them before the MLAs from other parties, and now you make your choice. Take the money, come to our party. Don't come to our party. This is CBI for you. So if you look at the candidate list of the TMC, it's filled with tainted leaders. After the elections, if these thieves, I'm telling you, people, these corrupted people who have got the CBI and ED running after them, after the elections, in case some of them wins, after the election, if the choice before them is to either join the BJP,
they'll all defect to the BJP.
Either join the BJP or go to jail. You tell me, if you were there in their position, if I was in their position, what would I have done? What would you have done? See, you cannot fight communalism. To fight communalism, you need to stand on a firm ground. You cannot fight communalism by standing, over the mud of corruption. You can't do it. They have indulged in corruption to such an extent in the last 10-12 years. Under Mamata Banerjee's patronization. So now they don't have a choice before them. If they don't join the BJP, they'll end up in jail. So don't elect these tainted leaders who are so vulnerable to blackmailing, who can be blackmailed so easily. See, take my example, all our candidates, we have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. But one thing is there, even Amit Shah's forefathers can't blackmail me in the name of CBI. I don't have a penny of corruption. I have never indulged in a penny of corruption in my life. Or I'm not talking about me only per se, but for all our leaders.
But I have to ask you this one question in the end. How important do you think is the left or the left ideology, or how significant is its existence in India right now? Or the need for it?
So I think I would quote Professor Prabhat Patnaik. A few days back he wrote in a I think an article that he wrote for the Telegraph that I read. He started by saying that a lot of people keep asking me about the future of the left in our country. I don't know the future of the left in our country, but without the left, the country doesn't have a future. So I think that one line, I think, sums up the entire.
Why do you think it's just restricted to Bengal and Kerala?
No, it's not restricted only to Bengal and Kerala. The Kisan movement that has been happening across the country, in the North India particularly, the left leaders have been leading the movement. The farmers.
That's true.
If you look at the student movement in JNU, in Hyderabad Central University, in Pondicherry University, everywhere, the student youth, they have. But yeah, of course, I would also agree with you when you say that it's restricted to Kerala, Bengal, and perhaps Tripura, and to a bit in Tamil Nadu and say Andhra. In terms of electoral success, yes, we have been majorly concentrated in these areas, but of course we want to take this beyond it. And there, I think Bihar is something. Bihar is the Bihar election gave us an immense, what you say, encouragement. I mean, see, in Bihar, this is so interesting. Like, I find this very interesting. Dominantly in our country for the last few years, particularly, we see how does a party grow in our country for the last 5-10 years. If someone comes from abroad, who doesn't know India, who doesn't know Indian politics, suppose someone's coming to India to study Indian politics, he or she studies Indian politics for the last 5-7 years, what would he or she feel? He or she would feel that a political party grows in a state in this country by defecting people from other parties, by money power, by purchasing the mainstream media. I won't say mainstream media, rather I would say, the kind of media that you are working with is actually the mainstream media. This is what the media should be like. What we often call the mainstream media are actually the corporate media anyway. So by purchasing the corporate media, by using muscle power, by defecting people from other political parties, a party grows. But in Bihar, actually the left showed the people of this country that is not the entire story. There are other means for a party to grow as well. For the last 30-40 years, we did peasant movement over there, we did Dalit movement, we fought against caste discriminalization, we fought against gender oppression, and that fight actually gave us a parliamentary presence. So that is also something that can be done in our country, which Bihar is an example, but through that example, we have put this model before the youth of this country, before the people of this country. See, this can also be done. You don't necessarily need to have an Amit Shah to, to build your party with all unfair means. You also can have leaders like Kanhaiya Kumar, who can fight for the people and, make sure that a force emerges.
Thank you so much, Shatarup. Thank you so much for talking to us, and all the best for your campaign and the election. Thank you. Hi everyone, if you like this video, don't forget to virtually like it as well. Share the video with your friends and your followers, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I also want to quickly say something here. If you have feedback regarding the videos on this channel, if you want to see certain types of videos, if you want us to cover certain constituencies, you want us to interview certain personalities, or if you have feedback regarding our production, our post-production, do get in touch with us. Leave your feedback on the comments. Get in touch with me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm everywhere. We would love to hear your feedback regarding the channel. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching.